Welcome to the Out There channel, live stream 66. Not quite the devil's number, but we're getting there. So I'll just cue some music. There we go. I played that in the last stream. So let's switch to desktop. Can you hear the music? Okay. Oh, pause the music. So we got two watching. So welcome and say hello down the side chat. I had a hard drive problem before, and I think it that lost this music I was going to play, and I had to restart, so it found it again. There's always issue. I better pause my echo here. You won't hear it though, but it sort of makes you stutter when you feedback. So who's up there? Renee, how's it going? Joining in Tungsten again. Well, what time is it there? It must be late evening, is it? Finally seen the island UFO video. Right. I did talk about it last stream though, and I did play the audio. That's right. Cool. Got some more information that's come out. It does sort of sound like it's sort of going to be debunked as meteorites, because now they got a video that's sort of from different car dash cams which show a meteorite coming down in the area that the pilot saw. So if we go to UFO interest, he's posted some links about it. Before we go there though, see these ones here, there's a lot of fake news going on about that there's a beam coming down starting the fires in California. Well, that's not true. These are all explainable images. The first one is actually SpaceX launch. You can see all the fumes from the launch pad, and obviously it's on time lapse. This one up in the corner here with the brown screen, that's actually and it's called a let's see, vertical smear. All these technical names they come out with. As you know, if you get a lightning flash as well, you get a vertical line as well that looks like a beam coming from the clouds. So we've talked about that one in the past, but these are different ones. And here's one that looks like a beam coming down, starting a fire in the corner here. That's actually a spider web on the lens or some smear on the lens, formed a sort of like a straight line. So they didn't clean the camera before filming, and I think that was taken from a video. And what do we got up here? So apparently someone's plotted the sighting and the three planes, I guess. Don't know if we can zoom in anymore. Probably can. I'll open it up maybe. So John and Tucson. Well, you have to put up with my pronunciation. I constantly muddle names. So yeah, Tucson. What does it mean? Maybe you should Google it and find out. But probably means something to do with Indian tribe. Yeah, probably will be like New Zealand has a lot of names to do with Wanaka or something like that, Wicca and stuff like that, which always turns out to be something like water or sea. Te Puki is a name which just means Te, just means the, and Puki, which is spelled Puke, means the hill. So the Te Puki means the hill. So you probably got Red Indian names, or what do you want to call them, Native Indians now. So so let's have a look. So Bullidide. What's that? That's the meteorite that was meant to be coming down, is it? So I don't know. Let's see if we can get a better zoom on that. Where's my zoom thing gone? Should be up in the corner. That's very strange. Where is it? Is it on the wrong screen? Could be. Oh, there it is. Let's see how much we can zoom in. So what do we got here? Witnesses reports. We received 5 reports about a fireball seen over Northern Ireland and Scotland on Friday, November 9th. So we got sightings. So they've been plotted over here, by the looks of it, green and red. BAW94, it came up on our left side and then rapidly veered to the north. So where's BWA? Can we see that? Must be down the bottom here. How do we get that overlay off? BWA, where is it? Can't see it. Okay, and BA94, got that one there? Oh yeah, there it is. So it come up from the left side, so it definitely looks like the left side to the plane. Rapidly veered to the north, and obviously that's to the north, I guess. There's no compass arrow on there, is there? So where's the compass? Is there any compass? Nope, don't see one. I think North Britain is this direction. I need our English people on guest speaker chat, so they would know. IB/D81768 meteorite or another object making some kind of re-entry. So where's that one? So this one here, plane number 3. So they saw it frontal. And we got this one here, VS76, Shannon Virgin 76. We saw 2 bright lights, 11 o'clock. So he's obviously taken this from Plane Finder and added the extra information on. And there it is there. So they would have seen the 2 lights as well. And these witnesses on the ground saw it as well, caught on their dash cams and visual sightings. So it sort of sounds like it's all the same object at the moment. It sort of doesn't explain the rapid veer to the north, but yeah, I don't know, maybe it come down here and sort of, I don't know, bent around, or maybe they're just mistaken. Not too sure about that one. And this one here, V76, said they climbed away at speed. So that's the only one that's really in question here is does that really explain two meteorites? But they knew the two meteorites come down because they got names on them by the looks of it. And so that's what Scott's put up on that one. So what do you think on that, guys? I'll post it in the side there so you can have a look. Is that the right one? So we got 3 watching now. Is Jamal built? Or have I missed him? Yeah, Jamal's normally about. What you saying, Renee? Oops, I've gone over there. I never heard about any triangle UFO. Oh, that was skydivers. Triangle. Yeah, it wasn't in this particular case, no. Stargate worm portal. I'm not too sure what you mean by that one. Are you talking about this football stadium one where they got the skydivers? What was the name of the football stadium? You can normally look them up. There's several skydivers. The most common one are the Golden Knights, of course. You reckon that was a wee bit up on the meteorites? You reckon they didn't enter far enough and they bounced back out? That kind of makes sense there, John. And it might explain why it veered off, because it may have vaporized some of the gas and pushed the angle slightly off on one side. So there's always a scientific explanation for these things, especially when you. I wonder if that website called, what is it, Meteorite Watch, that sends up radio waves in the atmosphere. I wonder if that matched the trajectory of the meteorites entering and then going back out. More unlikely. But he has put some dash cam videos up here as well if you want to check them out. Here, I think. Let's have a look. No, he's talking about vertical smear there. He's talking about the same thing. And now I'm not too sure if I've seen that one before. How many times did you see? I haven't never seen that image showing 2 aliens on a UFO. Although Egyptian does have a half circle and these funny crosses, but someone's obviously faked it. So that must be the original image here, and they've replaced, which one is it? Next to the umbrella here. So they've gone and changed this one here to the bird. So they've photoshopped it out. So what else we got? We still got the map here. Looks like an older version of it. So they've updated it a bit. So what else we got? What's it say? 1.2 million views for old video. What is it? Again, I don't think it's the meteorite one. It doesn't seem to be playing. Maybe it's just a snapshot. So I don't know. Is there meant to be a UFO in that? That light up there, I guess. Which looks like it could be lens flare. We got a lot of light coming over here. So I don't know. Okay. I think many of you have already listened to the audio of the pilots, so it looks like he's put that up there now. Here's a transcript, so we got the transcript now. But I played that on screen anyway, so when they're talking, they're doing automated subs on it. So he did have some links to the extra footage, but maybe he's deleting them again. Oh no, here they are. About the UFO over Ireland, here's a dashcam video by Sandy blah blah. That day there were many fireball reports. Reading one of them, the info matched to the airplane's pilot sightings, because we just looked on the map. Someone did the hard work of working out all the angles, and that looks pretty solid. So let's see if that one plays. So they're on the road, and here it comes down. Very quick. Play that again. There it comes into the atmosphere. Doesn't look like it's bouncing up though, is it? Oh yeah, it went back up, didn't it? Didn't keep coming down. Sort of grazed the atmosphere and then went back up. So that sort of proves it debunked, I think. But it probably a lot of people will keep pushing it for a long time, saying it was real UFOs. So he's calling it a fireball, a meteorite, I guess. So that's all the stuff that's new on that. So that's probably been enough to update it. And I don't think there's any new videos out that's gone viral that needs to be debunked at the moment. What are you saying? I probably need to scale down this font a bit again. Oop, I'm too low. What's happened? I've lost my magnifier. Where's it gone? There it goes. There we go. History Channel premiered. They are latest extraterrestrial aliens called Project Book. Yeah, I heard about that. Let's have a Google of that actually. Is that the blue book cases they're redoing, wasn't it? When did that come out? Tonight. Thanks for the like. Hopefully this thing's working. I should reload it. Oh yeah, it was working. So if you any new subs will appear, the names will appear here hopefully. And last time it didn't play the dancing alien, but when someone subs it plays a little dancing alien on the screen. I guess I think what happened is my CPU maxed out and the string didn't capture the data. So yeah, typical. So Project Book hasn't come up, so we have to put History Channel in, I guess. So I've got my sister visiting at the moment with her son, and so I've sort of been busy with them all day. And trailer, let's have a look at that one. I shouldn't get a strike for playing a trailer, should I? Project Prop sneak peek. History Channel. What's IGN? It seems A&E don't like their trailers being used under fair use, and so they block your live stream in many countries and can't monetize your live stream ever. But we can now do an update review of this piece of crap TV show they produced called Project Blue Book. Only 10% of it is actually factual. The rest of it's just BS. Don't waste your life watching this TV series. Don't even spend your money on it. Avoid it at all costs. Season 2 is probably going to be even worse. So, yeah. Bye-bye, A&E. You're useless. Stick with Travel TV. At least they might be a bit fairer. Complaint on the last video, which I've just got removed today. So it's a lot of extra work, you see. So there, that was kind of professionally done, doesn't it? So it's like it's a drama series, new drama series. Definitely have to watch that. Hynek is probably the best man in the UFO field that sort of started off as a government debunker and decided there was actually more to it and sort of switched sides. So, yeah. Have we got a wiki on it too? Let's have a look. So when did it come out? It didn't actually say, did it? Release date. We lost a few people watching that clip for some reason. Oh, where's it gone? Keeps going over to the side. Yeah. Yeah, I'm very scared to play too much because it's a lot of hassle, the copyright stuff. The robot flags, even though you can see clearly it was used for presentation and review and whatnot. And also they get promotion. Project Blue Book series. Let's have a look on the wiki here. Oh, it's a movie database, right. That looks like the same trailer we just watched, wasn't it? 11 episodes. Does it have a date? Probably not. And we ain't got even names for the episodes. That's pretty bad, isn't it? Apart from one, the Scoutmaster. That should be a good one. I can't remember that one. Did you watch the old Project Blue Book? There used to be an old series called Project Blue Book. It's just like a update, doesn't it? There's an old series that was also called something else. It had two names. Blue Book. 1960s, I remember it came out, or 70s, 1970 series. Let's see, 1952 would be the one. Restored Project Blue Book UFO files. Let's have a look at that one. Is that the right one? Not sure. Looks like something else. God, there's so much out there, isn't there? Project Blue Book Classic UFO documentary. No, that's not the one. That looks like it. Black and white kind of record. It started off as black and white, and then season 2, I think it went color. Project Blue Book Classic documentary. It was a TV series. So here we go. No, it's not that. Oh, here we go. Project UFO. That's what it was called. But also got known as Project Blue Book. That one here. If you've not seen it, get it, because it also is like the remake. It's good to watch the old stuff before you watch the new ones. I'll post the link to the side here. It's still available if you look for it, but the quality is pretty bad. So you can see it's highly rated here, 7.3. And we'll go back to the other one. We were trying to find the date. Starts release date 8th of January 2019. So it hasn't come out yet. So we'll have to wait till after Christmas by looks of it. That'll be a nice little treat for the new year. And what's the wiki say? It was down here somewhere. Actually, I should have posted the link to it. An up-and-coming American sci-fi fiction drama scheduled to premiere. They've got 8th of January here. The main role, blah blah, Hynek. I think Open Minds talked about it, didn't they? What's his name? Alexandro. So he said it was going to be really good. So looks like it by the trailer. And you get the trailer off that link there. So I'll post that link too. Oh, we've got 3 in the chat now, have we? Oh, no, Harold JV, didn't see you. Come on. I thought you were around earlier. Did the movie sound play all right? But the trailer sound not too loud, or because I don't know if the sound's working or not. But talking about going back now to the other things. You remember the thing I was talking about, Tesla? Well, I found this guy here that AutoCAD, that patent number with the flying helicopter plane, Indian guy, as you can see. So I just might post his link in the side and play some of it. Hopefully I don't get a smack on the hand that I have to deal with. And so we'll just play it from here. Have I got caps on? I mean, he hasn't got closed captions. He's got it embedded in the video box. So let's just play it. Let me know if you can't hear it.
But Tesla was also interested in flying machines. He invented the world's first tilt-rotor, tilt-wing concept aircraft, which he called the helicopter airplane. He also patented this innovative helicopter airplane. But Tesla never actually built his helicopter airplane. So we have created an exact 3D model of Tesla's helicopter airplane based on the pattern drawings. To understand it a little better, the helicopter airplane is a small structure with two wings about 8 feet square. It has a propeller to be driven by a light but a powerful turbine. In fact, Tesla was the first one to propose a turbine on a rotorcraft. This was important as turbine engine is essential for generating vertical lift. The helicopter airplane has 3 pairs of wheels. When the helicopter airplane rests on the ground, the propeller will be overhead and the wings will be vertically aligned. In this position, it will work like a helicopter. First, the propeller generates huge power to lift the helicopter airplane into the air vertically. But this high power is sustained only for a short while. At the desired height, the aviator begins to tilt the helicopter airplane using the tilting device. The wings are gradually brought into a horizontal position that puts the propeller in front of the machine. During this operation, the engine power is decreased, and at this lower power, the helicopter becomes an airplane, and then it is operated as such. This provides higher efficiency than traditional helicopters in forward flight. Since Tesla's time, many vertical takeoff and landing aircraft have been built. But Tesla's helicopter airplane has one unique feature. Seats for the pilot and the passengers are suspended from trunnions on which they can turn through an angle of 90 degrees. This enables those in the plane to sit in a normal position at all times. With two wheelbases at right angles, the helicopter airplane is able to descend in a glide or even vertically,
He's kind of funny.
landing easily either way. Tesla's helicopter airplane was a unique plane for its time. In fact, Tesla wanted to sell the design
So
for
I
mere
guess let's have a look at his
$1,000.
other videos here.
In today's terms, this would be close to about
Let's see what
$27,000,
other things he's got up there
which
that
would
might
again
be worth
would be a very good bargain.
looking
If
at.
Tesla's helicopter airplane inspires
Fifth
you to
generation
invent, then you can
magnification for your smartphones. So Emerson's Alexei won't be called racist anymore. Futuristic levitating camera patent. What's the point of that though? Is that to fool aliens coming into your bedroom? Have this thing rotating around, catching them. The emergency escape tool is essentially for all car owners. Yep, that's to break the window. And that was the Tesla one we looked at. So he's done some other models here. NASA overcomes a major challenge for Mars. Craziest aircraft design ever. Greatest air show. Awesome air shack. Oh yeah, I've shown you those ones in the past, haven't I? From various videos. So let's just have a quick skim of some of his other ones. And I'll mute it this time. Let's just have a quick look. What's the crazy design? Yeah, it's based on a bird by looks of it. Go on, get to the design. Oh, looks like a quadcopter with wings. What's so crazy about that? Airfalls help achieve a higher flight. I guess it would use have used less energy. Oh, that's pretty cool. I haven't seen a drone like that, so maybe you have to watch out for that appearing as UFOs on videos. Fixed vertical. It looks like something out of Star Wars when it comes down like that. So he's got some good stuff up there. Go and check them out. Hey, I want one of those if they ever design it. That's pretty cool. And what else we got here? The flying shark, which I've covered in the past. So we'll have a quick skim. If I ain't got a copyright complaint by now. So I've shown this in the past too. You can buy them for kids, $100 or whatever it was. Patent Yogi. Now, if you're being abducted by aliens, I'd recommend getting a shark robot. At least you could eat some aliens and we have some physical evidence. What do you think on that one, guys? Looks like he's bought one, so I don't know how much they cost. I think they cost $100 odd. Elastic. Anyway, I don't want to upset the guy too much by looking at all his videos, but they look pretty cool. So you can get to his site there. How many? Looks like he's got a few up, hasn't he? What else he got? Google ships are here. And Google building a navy. Well, soon it'll be the Terminator will be here, and it'll be coming after Rene. So we'll close that one down. Go and check out his other videos though. I don't want to keep playing them all. So what was the next topic we're going to cover? Yeah, I was going to talk about the science. Yeah, I'm going to talk about also some of those 10 UFO cases that allegedly left physical evidence as well. So we've got a fair bit to cover. So I got the drawing thing here. So just recap what I said about Tesla. Tesla, well, I'll actually read out, I've got the link here, and then I'll go back to that. Where is it now? Tesla, here we go. Tesla wasn't always right. He actually had some errors and had the wrong thinking. If he hadn't the information that we have nowadays, I think he would have refined a lot of his ideas. I think him and Einstein really complemented each other. They bounced off ideas of each other. I'm pretty sure they did, and debated a lot, and they sort of lost their way when Einstein brought out space-time and general relativity. Tesla said it was a load of BS and didn't agree with it at all. And click on the amazing videos. What's this? Really cool. Type OK go. Okay, we'll check it out. I was going to paste that down the side here on Tesla. Now, it's not as good as what I put in my documentary. I added in all the other stuff. If you haven't seen Tesla documentary, I would say go and have a watch of it. So the main bit here was on the gravity side of things in the article. Basically, what Tesla made some crazy statements. One was that the sun absorbs more energy than it gives out. And that sort of makes sense. Because what he found out was the energy called radiant energy. And he said the atoms absorb the radiant energy to maintain the integrity. We don't know why the nucleus holds together. And they only are guessing why the electrons spin around the atom. But I'll cover more into that in a minute. And there's some interesting stuff about the curvature of space. Concerning the curvature of space, Einstein was idea of a force field, which is kind of crazy. I discussed this point with Edwin Gora, and basically they said they're probably talking about the same thing. But I don't believe so, because Einstein's theory of gravity is the space is curved, so things fall into that curvature, which is what we call gravity. But Tesla found later on in his research that he said he called the thing the ether, which is like a fourth dimension of energy that's all around us. And he said that the atoms absorb from this ether radiant energy that he actually discovered in his laboratory. And that's why he was building the free energy transmitter. And he said the flow of the energy absorbing into the atom mass is what's called gravity. So it's totally opposing ideas here, space-time, curvature of space, and Tesla's more practical thing that everything's absorbing energy all the time and also releasing energy all the time. So to conserve energy, the atom balances out. The output of the atom is always, according to some people's theories, the atoms are always emitting electromagnetic energy, but we can't detect it. The EMF meters are not sensitive enough to detect energy being released from our body in electromagnetic waves. Remember, a photon, light, a radio, and all those other things are all electromagnetic. And so he did actually write a paper on gravity, because there were several references made in other people's books about it, but people still didn't sort of show up and make a big deal about his paper on gravity, unfortunately. So whether it's still out there somewhere, I don't know, but I couldn't find it. Composed. So I'm not sure if there's anything else I need to do. So I'll just try it out. What was it? Go something? OK Go or something? Is that the one? I'll do it with Google. Probably can't play it. Is it one of these that's going to give me a problem with copyright? Was that the one? Oh yeah, I probably should find it for you and post it inside. I'm always posting what I reference. Okay, go into YouTube search. So what should I search for? And then I'll go back to my Tesla stuff. Hey, we got 4 watching. Welcome to the Out There channel, guys. If you want to say hello on the side, do so. There was a man lifting boulders and stones with levitation, but he did it at night. Are you talking about the Coral Castle man? And it wasn't used. It was just using a pulley, an electric motor, and a car battery. I talked about that in the past, if that's the one you're talking about. There's no mystery there how to lift weights. So yeah, if I go into, I'm not too sure what you wanted me to search. Yeah, Coral Castle in Florida. Yeah, quantum physics. Dealing with the quantum physics, guys, is a fun thing. I'm going to talk about that. You didn't say what to type. Whereabouts was it? Type OK Go engine and click on one of their videos. Okay. we'll try and do it. So it must be this one here, is it? Final video, official video. I'll just swim it down. I can get away with copyright if I slow it down, perhaps. Let's see. 0.5. So what are we going to look at here? I don't want to. Looks like I might have to have him speaking. They got music. Better watch out. Music can give us copyright strikes. Is this the right one, John? So you got to listen to it, bollocks. It's music thing. Is that what you're saying? I like the Blue Men. You watch the Blue Men, and they get they pour like water-based paint on the drums, and it flies up in the air. And they're pretty cool. And they play that song, I'm in Love, I'm in Love. Old classic song from the 1980s, is it? Or 70s? And they use the things, the Blue Man Group. They're pretty cool. Nothing to do with aliens though, or Corey Good. Blue Man Group. They play regularly in Las Vegas, I believe. So they play I'm in Love. I don't know if we can find that one. I feel love, I feel love, I feel love. That's the one. Go and check out their videos. They're pretty cool. So unfortunately, because of copyright, we're sort of limited how we can sort of broadcast things here. I will just post you the search maybe. You can go and watch those ones that come up, hopefully the same. What are we saying here? Yeah, Blue Man want to believe. Yep. We believe, we just want to see the evidence. And we know it's being covered up. There's just too many credible witnesses out there, you see. So whereabouts was I? I was talking about Tesla, wasn't I? So yeah, I think I posted that on the site. So basically, as you know, atom has a nucleus. So I'll tell this story because I was meant to get you the links for Tesla things too. I knew I forgot something. So we've got an atom nucleus, and around the outside we have electrons, which they say are in an electron cloud, and they only go in discrete levels, so they won't ever crash into the nucleus. So they go around circles, and the atom, if I can draw one, not really good at drawing it, and that one goes around as well. So I'll get you the links first. So just go to my site and is that the one? No, it's fed phase. Okay, so you can click on the search thing and just type in Tesla. probably talked about him a lot, actually. The Tesla car. Have you seen that one? I do some funny animations from time to time, and also play political ones. You know, like Trump. Trump insulting aliens. I don't know if you've seen that one, but this one's good with the SpaceX car, where it flies to Mars and crashes into Mars, and have a watch at the end. So here's the first one here, the documentary on Nikola Tesla. I think some people didn't like my Tesla one. I'm not too sure now. SpaceX one. Some people haven't got a sense of humor. You got to have Kiwi humor, especially in UFO fields. And we've also got Towson Brown, which is also relative to that one, which ties into the same thing, because what Towson Brown found, that when he charged capacitors, high voltage capacitors, they actually lost weight. And then he measured the plates in the capacitors and found they were actually losing weight, which means they were losing gravity. And that sort of ties into what Tesla said, what gravity was. So if you charge like a slab of metal, right, and have it in a field with all the other ones, the atoms that are getting the energy from the source of energy that you're putting into the system, into the capacitor, through the high voltage, or it's slowing down the absorption of the external energy coming in, so it gets lighter. And that sort of makes sense that they've altered the atom level. But the quantum theory guys out there would call it pseudoscience. But when you start looking at all these things collectively, it sort of all links together, which is basically what the patterns I've seen. I think, well, I can't prove it, but that guy did this, and he said his experiments produced this, and Tesla did this, and said there's an energy flow that's not just electrons, but he said he gave it the name of radiant energy, which we would call nowadays dark energy. Exactly the same thing. We can't see it; it's invisible. But he said when he created it, it would go through solid metal plates of 5 inches thick and hit him in the chest and send him backwards, almost knock him to the ground, and leave bruises on him. So he knew it was able to penetrate matter. And so he was releasing it from the air, or the ether, as he calls it, maybe the ether that was surrounding the air, and somehow he was activating it with his electrical spark, which then would release this energy from that dimension into our dimension. Well, it's still in our dimension, I guess, but it's still invisible, invisible to us, but it's still visible to atoms. So, yeah. So I did actually do a live stream on this called The Science of How UFOs Hovered, so I don't want to recover that. But have a look at that one. But I did recap it on Live 37, added some extra bits there as well. I want to copy link. So like I said, I don't always debunk. I also look at science and theories, and they may not be correct, but they sort of have interesting aspects where if you can start linking all the information together, there might be some truth in it. So go and check it out. And also I've got other ones here, which obviously reference Tesla. So that was number 19. So yeah, if you're not sure, just search on keywords and stuff pops up. That was Towson Brown as well. I searched on there, wasn't it? Let's go back. I've done quite a lot of videos now. and a lot of subjects. That's all the Tesla ones. There's quite a few there that make a reference to Tesla. And time travel, I don't know I had Tesla in that one. Oh yes, I talked about space-time, I think. The story of the green people was actually a true story. It's written in English journals, and a lot of people considered it to be misunderstood what they were talking about. But apparently these two kids just showed up out of nowhere and had green skin. So I look at that and see if there's any medical or other explanations why humans would have green skin, and everyone said it's a first classic signs of maybe human hybrids, but they had this crazy story that they were living underground in a cave system with their family, and they snuck off and went up a rabbit hole or some sort of hole, probably a lava tube or something like that, and come out onto the surface, and they got lost. And so that's the story of the thing anyway. So it's worth having a check out that. It's got some crazy time dilation stories in it that are thrown in, and also looked at various other theories to see if I could justify maybe they were actually real and not actually a folklore story. So check it out. There's also one called Blue People, which is also another story in England about what they call mermen, not mermaids, that try to pull sailors underwater when there was a storm or something. So it sounds like that one sounds more like a folklore or storyteller of because sailors are really good at storytelling, and I think a lot of the sea monsters and all that was mostly because they got bored and made up all these stories to sort of scare people and sort of become famous. Like we saw this amazing dinosaur or whatever out to sea. So it kind of makes sense that they would prank people and sort of be interested. Also, I did one here on cloaking. Is actually real, and there's real science behind it, and it's called the meta lenses. So I covered a bit about these new lenses, which I talk about will replace glass lenses and cameras eventually. I did an experiment here with permanent magnets. If you haven't watched that one, called my TR3 levitating experiment with a little model, which I still haven't got back to finishing off. I think I got some down rates on it. I don't know why people would down rate it, because they could duplicate it and have some fun as well. And also I did one stream on cloaking, but I also did one on what else was it? I can't remember now. But yeah, just go through all the live streams and check out the headers and stuff, and I'm sure you'll find lots to watch if you're new to the channel. So I was talking about this atom anyway. So what the problem is they talk about quantum field theory, which you may have heard about. The hydrogen atom has the magic ratio of 1/37, is it? Something like that, and it turns out to be a magic number, a magic ratio that's only in atoms, which was on that UFO movie. I talked about it anyway on one of the streams. But basically, I was on a Facebook group and I got attacked. I was talking about Tesla, and he talked about that atoms always absorbing energy, and straight away I got attacked by these what I call pack rat guys, or pack rat guy that's sort of I know my science, and I'm obviously you don't know basic physics, and even without knowing me, he was already attacking me and saying, "Oh, you don't understand the basic physics that when an object's rotating, it always stays rotating. That's called conservation of momentum." Of course, I understood that sort of stuff. I'm saying there's an alternative reason to why electrons would be spinning, and they may be wrong because he keeps talking about, they keep talking about mass being proof of a concept, which it isn't, and so I started looking around the website to see if other people were questioning um, how the atom works, what keeps the stuff spinning. But I'll go back to that in a minute. What I mean is I'll cover angular momentum since the guy brought it up. So I started looking around and I thought, oh, that would be a good thing to talk about on one of my lives. People would be interested in that. So as you know, satellites in space keep orbiting, and there's some examples I have to get to. Let's see. So you've heard that NASA spins probes and satellites keep spinning around. It's because it says here in several NASA emanations of missions, I noticed the spacecraft is rotating when traveling in deep space. And the answer here is it's done in the interest of stability, both inertia and thermal. Inertial stability, basically, if something is spinning, it resists attempts to change its spin axis. So, in other words, not spin out of control and then fly towards Earth. So, if you align your spin axis with, say, the axis along which your thrusters point, it's easy to keep yourself pointing in the right direction. And then he talks about thermal stability here. Spacecraft, whether the surface can see the sun is hot. So you don't want the side of a satellite getting too hot because it's always facing the sun. It's like getting sunburnt. Surface, in some instances, they add more energy to keep the spin going again because, as you know, atmosphere goes for a long way out in space and it gets less and less atoms. And it just takes one or two atoms to cause friction on the probe as it's spinning around in space, and it starts to slow it down. So it's losing energy because of solar radiation and particles of atmosphere up there. But if you spin a spinning top, it should spin forever if you have no friction. I know it's hard to believe this, but energy is stored within the spinning object, and if it hasn't got no friction or air, and it's in a perfect vacuum like space, well, space is not really a perfect vacuum, but it's pretty good. It will keep on spinning. So I'll just close that one down, which is quite an interesting thing. I'll just go through all the tabs here. And speaking of spinning tops, here's an article I saved here. I heard a spinning top is a perfect vacuum would stay spinning. So this is the angular momentum that the guy was talking about, relating it to the atom itself spinning, that it's got electromagnetic attraction, and simply that's like a thing orbiting the Earth that is going to keep on spinning, same as the Earth keeps on spinning too. So there's no friction to slow down the Earth, apparently, but that's not so, because the Earth has got a internal magnetic core, which is slightly off axis, and basically the magnetic field is what sort of helps keep the Earth spinning in its current spin cycle. But apparently, also the Earth is meant to be slowing down a wee bit every so fraction of a day every so many years. that it's hardly noticeable, but eventually Earth will probably slow down a wee bit. Maybe we'll have to figure out a way to speed it up again, so we've got full 24-hour days again. So here, I think you can actually Google that. I don't think I actually looked up that one. You can say, is Earth slowing down? So that would really mess things up in time zones and and there's probably a few videos on it, whether they're any factual ones, I don't know. Is the Earth rotation mysteriously slowing down? Experts predict uptick. So what's it saying here? What's a good site to look at? Forbes? Are they trustworthy information? Scientists have found strong evidence that 2018 will see a big uptick in the number of large earthquakes. So we didn't really see that many this year, did we? Big earthquakes, so they might be wrong. Earth's rotation, as with many things, is cylindrical, slowing down by a few milliseconds per day, then speeding up again. You and I will never notice this very slight variation in the rotation speed of Earth. However, you will certainly notice the result in an increased number of severe earthquakes. Didn't the New Zealand earthquake actually change, slow the planet down enough though? Didn't kind of recall that it affected the spin of the Earth. So not sure if it says here somewhere. So the team noted that around every 25 to 30 years, Earth's spin began to slow down, and that the slowdown happened just before upticking earthquakes. The slowing rotation historically has lasted for 5 years, with the last year triggering an increase in earthquakes. So maybe it's 2019 that's going to be the big year for quakes. So California better get ready, huh? To add an interesting twist to the story, 2017 was the 4th consecutive year, so maybe their 5-year plan is wrong. So I don't know. Probably have to research that one a bit more. I thought it was slowing down, but maybe, like they said, it slows down, speeds up again. So it's kind of interesting. So what else we got here? I was talking about, where is it? The spin, wasn't it? So they said here, a floating top in a perfect vacuum will indeed spin forever because there's no friction or other force to slow it down. In fact, right now, you're standing on one of those tops. The Earth has been spinning on the axis for some billions of years now and looks to go good for many more. Well, obviously. The mere presence of a gravitational field doesn't affect the spin of the top. However, if the top is touching the ground in any way, there will be small amount of friction to the pivot point. So that's like atmosphere as well. Atmosphere friction onto the spinning thing. So I don't think I've ever seen any experiments where someone's actually spun it in space and started recording it for us to say, here you go, it's still spinning after 3 years, 5 years, and it hasn't slowed down. Because that sounds like a really good experiment just to prove to people that angular momentum is actually really conserved, because you can't really say that the planet spinning may never slow down, because already we've noticed that they've talked about earthquakes affecting it and the magnetic field inside the Earth that causes changes. So to say that a spinning body will always preserve its energy unless acted upon by another force, we can only take their word of it. So, but it does look like it's true, you see, because they spin satellites and all that sort of stuff. So you can probably research it a bit more if you want. And I've got this thing about mathematics as well. There's fuel required for a satellite to orbit Earth, and once a satellite is in orbit, which requires a lot of energy, just look at the size of the rockets that aren't that big just to get the satellites up there. Most of the propellant is actually spent to accelerate it to orbit velocity. So we've talked about that before. Geostationary satellites, and it doesn't need constant propulsion to remain in orbit. So basically what I said in that live stream is that basically the satellites always fall in towards gravity, but because as it falls, it's actually speeding up. So it's sort of like those satellites, meteorites in that island Titan. It sort of skims back out. So it's always falling and speeding up and then lifting up again, sort of thing. Although it wouldn't be like a noticeable effect, sort of thing. It'd be a very small amount that you wouldn't notice it, or they would, or the broadcast and from the satellites wouldn't be noticed. But obviously, there's going to be like radiation and air particles even in those geostationary orbits that's going to change or slow down. And I believe the ISS space station has to do orbit corrections to keep it up there. Has to sort of speed itself up again. So yeah, he's saying it doesn't. But I suspect they have what's inside. Does this one say? For an ideal situation, a satellite would continue to remain in the same orbit at the same velocity, but actually there is external forces acting on the spacecraft which disturb the orbit. So fuel is required to do station keeping or bring up the spacecraft back to its orbit slot, which is what the space station does. You need speed. If you don't have speed, you will fall into the object you are orbiting, which is the Earth, of course. If it's a fairly low altitude orbit, then aerodynamic drag will cause the altitude to fall slowly. In this case, you might choose to include a propulsion system keeping it up there. But I think they've got some other ways in doing it too, with what do you call it, gyroscopes, like a flywheel. They can use like a flywheel to, instead of using thrusters, they can sort of adjust a satellite position, which is quite a clever way. And a flywheel basically is you can just drive off the electrical energy of the solar panels, electric motor, and spin it, and then you can use it to obviously change the direction or move it slightly. I think I've got a post here somewhere that talks about it, actually. I think it's called something. Is that the one? So he's talking about magnetic, aerodynamic drag, gravity, solar radiation, pressure. Did I miss it, maybe? Maybe it's on another tab. So you have to check up various sites and make sure they all say the same thing, of course. So we call that like a centripetal force, a force which acts on a body moving in a circular path and is directed towards the center around which the object is moving. So that's like a spinning top. And I've got examples here on some YouTubes. But I think we all understand what that means. So I just put it there just because they're talking about it. And why does the Earth rotate? So that's another one to have a look at. Sorry guys, better check out what you're saying. Tsunami. Recorded astronaut Jack Fisher snorting cocaine. Now you do say some strange things. On the topic of earthquakes, apparently the Alpine fault in New Zealand is overdue. Yes, it is, and it'll probably be time it gets to us in Christchurch here. It'll be like a 7, probably greater than a 7. It'll probably be like closer to an 8, probably, which will be very powerful. But I think our houses will still be okay. So back to it here. I should talk about angular momentum. So what is angular momentum? Is that the best one? So another example here also is where does a spinning figure skate energy go when she slows down? Remember they hold their hands out to the side and they spin, and then they bring it into the center and it speeds up. So moving the mass energy into the center causes an increased velocity, and then they bring their arms back out, don't they, to slow down very quickly. And someone's asking it here, and they're all talking about it in the scientific way. There are two main sources of confusion. First, because of gravity, extending your arms feels like work. You only interested in the radial movement though, and in this direction the skater's arms are pulled by the centrifugal force or centripetal force. In the long tradition of spherical cows in a vacuum, I'm not sure what he means there, you could replace the skater with two beads on a spinning rod. So that must be what he's talking about there. Two cows. Second, the idea of rotational energy is kinetic energy. The relevant work variable is already mentioned, the radial extension of the skater's arm. And fifth is this concern rotational energy plays the part of potential energy. So I just wonder how that relates to UFOs. Often people say it's spinning. Could that be part of the anti-gravity thing, propulsion they're using? Or to create maybe some artificial gravity inside? I don't know. Because when you spin something in space, the rim of the thing is where the gravity effect happens. You've probably seen the space stations in space that they proposed to build, which they haven't built still, rotating livable space stations. So that's what they should be building now. They should be building these space stations outside of our planet, but they then should maybe get some rockets on it and gradually move it to Mars orbit and use it like a base, you know what I mean? Then start to build rockets that go down to the surface and come back up, and they have all their food and supplies and water being recycled up on the space station. Would make sense, wouldn't it? Rotating space station. See if we can find some images. Now, apparently, International Space Station has a section where they've got artificial gravity, where they do spin. But it's not like what they visioned, like over here, like 2010, was it? Or 2001? There we go, 2001, with the rotating space stations, and people walk around the inside of the rim, because that's where the artificial gravity, like this here, like this one here, where they can start building houses on the outside. So what happens if it stops spinning, though? All that water and stuff would probably start floating. But I suppose that wouldn't be too bad. You just have to get it spinning again, and then it will get artificial gravity again, and then go back down. But it will make a mess. Could this 300 billion space mushroom? What do I mean, space mushroom? It's really a space donut. Replace the giant rotation station would create artificial gravity. So is it some new idea? Oh, here we go. The space mushroom. Well, they got some ideas, but they're not doing it. I wonder how much it's going to cost, because their budgets are always wrong. 300 billion, they reckon, but I reckon it'll probably end up being $1 trillion. Well, the Americans paid out the bankers $1 trillion, so we could have had 3 space stations up in space by now, instead of keeping the bankers all nice and happy in their mansions. They should have been put in prison. But Obama paid them off. That's one of the biggest mistakes. They never put any bankers on trial. They should have put them on trial. That was the biggest fraud in American history. So that would be really cool, having a space station like that. Yeah, you may not want to come back to Earth. You got the best of both worlds then. You can just hop into a little space ship, and straight away you're in anti-gravity. But I think if you have a look, I think the space station has a section on it. Artificial gravity, ISS. Should have gone off track here, but gravity, maybe. I can type. I don't know if it's called module actually. It's come up in the search, so let's try it. It's come up with the space mushroom again. Central. So it talks about space station here. The centrifuge accommodations module, called CAM, is a cancelled element. It was cancelled of the International Space Station. So they did have it planned, but they didn't implement it. Why did they can it? We have to find out, I guess. Cancelled. Although the module was planned to contain more than a centrifuge, the 2.5 meter centrifuge still was considered the most important capacity of the module. So there's a lot of reading there. Looks like they built prototypes. It's now on display in outdoor exhibit. Well, that's no good, is it? They should have put it up in space and had to play with it. Because that would give them some ideas how to build a big space station out in space, wouldn't it? Can be attached, you see, to Harmony module of the ISS. And it was cancelled in 2005 alongside the habitation module and the crew return vehicle because of the ISS cost overruns. Yet they waste a lot of money on wars when they should really be funding it into this sort of stuff. I'm surprised SpaceX hasn't actually started building a space station. He's got a few billions now, so I guess he's going to need to make $1 trillion before he can start building space stations. But once he flies people up to it for like holidays, could you imagine how much money he's going to be rolling in? So yeah, think big. So what was this one? Oh yeah, this is another piece of news that came out too. Massive impact crater beneath Greenland could explain ice age climate swing. Remember, they're always talking about climate change, saying it's man-made. Well, it looks like a big asteroid impact would sort of cause a lot of dust up in the atmosphere and block out some of the sun and, of course, cause an ice age. So was there anything important on that one, apart from pictures? So it looks like they've done some scans from space. Yeah, it looks like it's filled with ice here, maybe. What's it say? The radar data revealed both the topology beneath the ice and the layering of the ice itself. Okay, so this looks like it's legit. How they found the crater, the research team wasn't out scouring the globe for craters. They were in Greenland to map Arctic sea ice with NASA's Ice Bridge project when a string of serendipitous events led to the discovery. Like all things, it's always discovered by accident. Who's still with us? We've got 4 watching. So there's John here and Mel, and we've got Renee, of course. Did I close that one down? And what was the other one here? So yeah, I was talking about Einstein's theory of space-time. So this person here has put up a page. Physics have a dark matter and space-time problem. Space-time is the real gravity according to physicists. Why? Because of a drawing which looks like a vortex with a grid pattern across it, which is meant to be planet Earth, and it causes that curved space. And the physics behind this drawing, it starts with 2 objects moving towards each other, which eventually means persons on trains, their motions relative to each other is different from their motion relative to something else. Relative means relativity, voila, space-time thus replaces gravity. So Einstein could be wrong, that's what I'm saying. To explain this, put your space and time on a graph, because time's not actually a real physical thing, you know. It's not like saying time is a perception thing, you know. It's not like what would you say, like kilograms, not like mass. It's not like inertia speed and all that sort of stuff. Each must be different axes. This shows the space combines with time to form space-time. You didn't get the connection. That's why you aren't a physicist and somehow someone else is. Someone above the 7th grade knows that gravity is uniform. Physicists are beyond that. Gravity to physics is a vortex. A vortex is not uniform. It is a sphere that forms around a mass. How does time create a vortex? Why not Grandpa's face? The vortex is always where there is a mass. Does mass have something to do with space-time? Physicists have never said space-time has anything to do with mass, yet the vortex is always surrounding a mass. Einstein made no measurements. There's no way to verify his claims until years later. Nowadays, physics proves Einstein to be correct every day. Their primary proof is that light bends around stars and galaxies, just as Einstein predicted it would. Only space-time influences light. Newtonian gravity does not. This proves that Newton was crap and Einstein was genius. Unfortunately, there's another theory that says that the sun has an atmosphere, and just like Earth's atmosphere goes out into space and gets less dense, the sun also has one. And of course, they're watching the light being bent around massive stars. Of course, they haven't taken into account that there could be an atmosphere that's refracting the light, bending the light, you see. So that's another theory out there. So it doesn't prove space-time is correct at all. And also the time difference in satellites going around the Earth is changing every day. They're saying that also proves space-time, but they've discounted that it's moving around above the Earth's magnetic field, which is obviously influencing the atoms itself, because they keep putting the atomic clocks further and further up mountains, and they lose time. But that's because the magnetic field's changing also, and we're constantly spinning as well. So there's a constantly changing flux around the atoms. So they've sort of discounted that. So Einstein still could be wrong on the space-time stuff. One method of moving through space is to catch ions from the sun, sort of like a sailboat in space. Ions are made of mass with charge. The sun is constantly emitting mass. You don't see it because it takes the form of transparent gas, but there's enough of it throughout the solar system to move objects, which is what they're talking about, solar wind, I guess. If they have a large enough sail, if stars are given off mass, why wouldn't light bend while passing through the mass, as it does when passing through the prism? So that's a prism. The entire basis of this Big Bang theory for the origins of the universe is redshift, which is noticeable in light from distant sources. Redshift means that the wavelength of light is no longer than it should be. The more distant objects have more redshift, which supposedly means they're moving away faster. This arrangement looks like an explosion to physicists, so they claim it all began with an explosion. Never mind the fact that such an explosion is physically impossible. Physics is now bound by the laws of physics. When the explosion occurred, most of the matter moved from the center of the explosion to its present location in almost no time. So it instantly expanded, which, as you know, explosions take time to expand. But they're claiming time wasn't invented until the matter expanded. So that was always Steve Hawking's argument that there can't be a God because there was no time before the explosion. So God couldn't have made the universe because he can't exist because time didn't exist. There's always been like Steve Hawking's claim, which is called inflation. That means the universe expanded without anything moving. So the Big Bang theory is just crazy. Physicists can describe everything that occurred while all of this began, even though there was no laws of physics. Why wouldn't such brilliant physicists be experts at sorcery? So what he's saying is we've got something from nothing. All the matter in the universe come out of nowhere, and it's something from nothing, which is physically impossible, as we know, because we got no conversion of energy. So, oh, I've got another sub. Have I? Or Google give me one back. Google mucks around with the subs for some reason, takes it away, and then they suddenly come back again. So this is actually quite a good read, actually. It's quite funny. Galaxies spin faster than they should. This is the primary basis for assuming dark matter exists. So they had to invent dark matter, which is really, if you look at it, Tesla's ether system is really dark matter. It's like a dimension that we don't know about where the dark energy comes from, which he calls radiant energy back in his time. So when you start comparing like I did on that documentary I did, it sort of fits what Tesla was experimenting with, and they're really talking about the same thing. But in this case, they're sort of trying to say the universe was created, which is obviously wrong, because when you start looking at redshift, the chart for redshift for all the galaxies moving, they're not all at constant speed. Some are moving slower, some are moving faster, and they write it off by saying the redshift movement is just anomaly. They seem to. This is the problem with modern day science. They seem to all parrot each other and don't sort of question it. So, why are they talking Big Bang Theory on the TV and saying redshift this and space time, and they keep repeating themselves. And maybe that's the problem with our science today. We need to start saying, well, maybe there's a slight error here, and we need to rethink it. So the sort of having to speak with physicists and quantum theory guys, it's just like whacking your head on the wall, basically. And when you suggest a new way of thinking and say that Tesla may not be wrong, that the ether may still exist, because they did experiment with lasers and mirrors, and they said there was no change in the speed of light. If the ether existed, we would see a change in light. And of course, Tesla said no, the ether controls the speed of light, which sort of nullifies the whole experiment, because the ether controls the speed of light. And as we know, recently CERN have admitted that subatomic particles may be going faster than the speed of light. And Tesla's always said subatomic particles always go faster than the speed of light. The spinning atoms, the electron spin is actually going faster than the speed of light, and all this. So maybe they're not all correct, and this is the stuff I keep questioning too. And I read this stuff, and people keep telling me it's pseudoscience, but it sort of fits. Tesla's idea sort of fits still, and it can be like what their conclusion of the results they saw. There may be another explanation for it. You see, like the bending of the light around the sun might be because the sun's got an atmosphere, and the speed of light is constant because the ether controls the speed of light in its area of space or whatever. What have we got saying down here? Spider-Man. So we got someone else joining us. As a work of art, I mean, you can't think that media is telling you truth. Not too sure what you're talking about. Deleted message. Sorry guys, not sure what you're saying here. There's a work of art. Thank you, JB. I must have missed something at the top here, have I? So yeah, always, as my hashtags always says, always question everything. And to be a scientist, you shouldn't just rely on mathematics to say it's true, because as you can see, a lot of the equations we use might work when we're on the gravitational field of the planet, but once you get off the planet into space, the equations don't work anymore, so you have to use something else. So yeah, if you have a look at the quantum physicists, they come up with all these strange things to trying to explain it, like virtual particles and some other stuff as well, which I probably can't remember now. But it is very tiring trying to wrap your head around, and they sort of write a lot of mathematics out, and it sort of goes way over your head, and you can't sort of understand what they're trying to say in all the mathematics. It sort of gets so complicated, it just goes crazy. So theoretical scientists can be very confusing people to try and understand. So here's what physicists end up with. They apply Newton's law to the rotation of the galaxy, which is basically what I was saying with one equation, and claim they need to have 4 times as much mass based on the speed of rotation. Why don't they just use Einstein's brilliance instead of Newton's laws? Mass has nothing to do with space-time. How fast should a galaxy rotate based on Einstein's wizardry? No one knows. It seems that physicists need Newton's laws to solve problems, while space-time takes care of everything else. What is everything else? It's 90% of physics. Some say relativity is 90% physics. That's 90% welfare system and 10% work. So he's being a bit cheeky there with some politics. So yeah, I haven't really checked out this guy's stuff. Home. Science errors, energy misidentified, global warming. So he sounds a bit of a conspiracy type guy, I guess. Millions of years ago, what's that one? Why there is no such thing as a greenhouse gas. So as you might have just heard on the news recently, apparently they've admitted that the global warming or climate change scientists have made a mistake, and they said it's not, the temperature of the sea is not warming as much as they actually calculated. So if you can't trust what the scientists are saying about global warming being man-made and all that, how are you going to believe anything they say? Global warming is probably one of the most debated subjects I come across amongst my friends and family. Everyone has their own things on it. Most of them deny that it's actually mostly man-related. They reckon man may have a wee bit of impact on it, but they reckon it goes in cycles, that the Earth goes in cycles of warming and cooling due to God knows what factors. Maybe the Earth's core, maybe the sun spots, maybe the sun, because we haven't been on the Earth long enough to collect all this information over thousands of years. We've only gotten to the science age in the last 150 years. So, everything we use today was all because of the brilliant mind of Tesla. If it wasn't for him to perfect AC current and 300 other patents that are used today, means that we may have been way behind the ball still, and other people may have to discover it and invent it or make it better. But if it wasn't for Tesla, we'd be running our houses off DC power because of Edison. Because he said that AC was dangerous, and he electrocuted elephants to say Tesla's idea was dangerous, and you should stick with my battery stations for DC power. So he would have to have one every 12 miles, a power station. So that would have been a crazy setup to what we've got nowadays. So check out that guy's stuff anyway. I've only read that one about space-time, which I thought it was quite amusing, because I have my doubts about Einstein being correct. Just kick him out, mate. Looks like he's a useless troll. And just stick him in, what do you call it? No gamers here. It's all about UFOs and science here, and applying science to UFOs. So yeah, just if you get a person in the chat which I'm not monitoring, just hide the user on channel. Bang, like that. He's gone, unless I undo it. So yeah. And all his messages would disappear in the final side chat as well. So yeah, did I post that? I didn't I? Close that down. And we'll talk about those UFO cases at the end here. I think Jamal, you'll probably be going off soon, midnight, isn't it already? So as you can see here, when they talk about angular momentum, they start putting mathematics into it. Why does the Earth spin? What started it spinning to begin with? And how does an ice skater manage to spin faster and faster by pulling the arms in? We've sort of covered that. By now, the pattern is clear. Every rotational phenomenon that has a directional translational analog, it seems quite reasonable then to define angular momentum. So this is what they used to claim that electrons don't need energy to keep spinning around an atom. But although we haven't seen it, they seem to try and prove it with mathematics and whatnot. This equation is an analog to the definition of linear momentum. Units for linear momentum are kg. So yeah, it goes into all this sort of stuff. Angular momentum is completely anomalous and logomorphous to linear momentum. First presented in uniform circular motion and gravitation. So here's an example here, and you can see all the mathematics. Earth's mass is 5.97 to the power of 24 kgs. I don't know what that works out, probably a big number by the looks of it. And its radius is 6.37 to the power of 6. The Earth's angular velocity, W, blah, blah, blah. So it goes on a bit. Discussion. The number is large, demonstrating the Earth, as expected, has a tremendous angular momentum. The answer is approximate because we have assumed a constant density for Earth in order to estimate its moment of inertia. So, how did the Earth start to spin on other planets? Well, they reckon it formed because all the particles started forming a massive circular disk, and it got denser and denser into a sphere, and the energy was converted into rotational movement. I think I got something here somewhere. So we got also here conservation of angular momentum. You can now understand why Earth keeps on spinning. As you saw in the previous example, L equals net blah 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 blah. This equation means that to change angular momentum, a torque must act over some period of time. So that torque we talked about previously was earthquakes. As you know, it changed the rotation speeds because Earth has a large angular momentum. A large torque is acting over a longer time. And also, what happens if a meteorite impacts the Earth? That's going to maybe go in the opposite direction to the spin. That would change the spin too, wouldn't it? So yeah, they kind of make a lot of assumptions, don't they? It's still a bit of guesswork. The solar system, from a cloud of gas, the dust that was originally rotating, orbital motions and spins of the planets are of the same direction as the original spin and conserve the angular momentum of the parent cloud. So they're saying that the cloud of particles spun around and got denser and denser and formed our solar system. And they all spun the same direction. But isn't there one planet that spins the opposite direction? I kind of recall there was something spinning the other way. And of course the moon spins as well, believe it or not. And it's a strange spin. They call it tidal locked to the oceans. It actually slows down and speeds up as well. And that's why it's always facing the Earth. It doesn't slightly get out of sync. It's always the same face that we get up every night and see the same craters and all that. But my friend has his own theory that I put on Patreon, because he said he didn't want it in public. He's starting to write a book of his theory, and anyone that joins Patreon can actually watch the videos that I made and also get access to the PDFs of his latest book chapters with his theory on fractal density. What's he call it? Unified fractal density theory, where he talks about how fractal energy works at denser and denser levels, and also relates it to spinning galaxies, rotation of the planets and spin of the planets, that it's all interlocked, it's all relative. So he sent me this thing here with his theory, because he doesn't believe the Tesla theory, so he's got his own one about gravity. I'll just bring up what he said, and he's so convinced that he's right. It's on the wrong screen. So gravity is easy. The difference in the density in and out is the cause of gravity. A quantity means a volume at a density. If emission density is greater, that is the proof that a reduction of volume has happened. The reduction of volume caused attraction towards the place where that volume reduces is happening. Due to it being a continuous flow of energy in and out, there will be a continuous attraction towards the place of concentration. Gravity is the easiest of nature's forces to understand. And basically, is it any different to what Tesla was saying? That he was saying that there's always energy going into the atom. So he's saying there's energy going in and also energy going out. So that can conservation of energy, according to his theory, which is also fits what Tesla was saying. So he's just saying it in a different way, and he's talking about it being fractal energy, where the difference is what causes the gravity, which is, I'm pretty sure that's what Tesla was trying to say too, with the absorption of the radiant energy. So maybe his theory is not so wrong. So he said here, the limitation of science, in a famous book by Sullivan J.W.N., the limitation of science. Research has changed our whole conception of matter. The first step was the experimental demonstration that there exist little electrified bodies which very much smaller than a hydrogen atom called electrons. Measurement was made with the result that the whole mass of the electron was found to be due to its electric charge. This was the first indication that the material universe is not the substantial objective thing we had always taken it to be. Matter began to thin away into the completely spectral thing it has become now. Rotation of substance has to be replaced by the rotation of behavior. So that's a quote from a good book, which is actually one of the best sellers. I'm not sure if you can find it online. but it'd be worth seeing if you can find it and have a read of the book, because it sounds interesting. It was written in 1927, I believe, and that's the quote they made there. So yeah, go and check out his theory if you're on Patreon, but you'll need to pay $1 to get access to it, unfortunately. But that's the way he wanted it, and he said I can put it up and see how we go. Let's see if anyone's interested in it. So that sort of brings me to the mathematics one, I think. Skater. So this is a good article that I found on mathematics, that it doesn't describe our reality as a whole. It's just a tool. So if you go to that site and actually read some of the comments, it's actually quite good. The comments further down as well, if they're still there. I need to make it bigger. Again, it comes down to that we should always question things and keep our minds open. Today I had someone tell me that paranormal is not real. And I said, well, unfortunately it is, because I've had stuff happen to me which I can't explain with science. And so I think it's something that you're going to have to experience, just like a UFO sight, until you see a physical craft. Some people are not going to believe what they were seeing, you see. So there's some good stuff down here. Comments. This seems to be an unreasonable criticism that maths maps onto the universe does not mean that all the universe has to map onto math. That for every possible expression of a mathematical physical theorem, there has to be a corresponding reality that would be what do you call that word? Platonism. Be such a compact formula does not exist. It does exist. It's just hard to compute. Simulation is way faster. The author's distinction of what makes a simple, elegant formula and what doesn't seems rather arbitrary. The formula is bigger than the one can keep in mind does not make it less elegant than a shorter one. Everything counting. So he's quoting the guy there. Again and again, undefined assumptions of cosmologists today are developed with the most sophisticated mathematical methods, and it is only the plasma itself which does not understand how beautiful the theories are and absolutely refuses to obey them. That said, I do still wonder if cosmologists and astrophysicists were to include the observed behavior of laboratory plasmas in their inferences for cosmic plasmas. Perhaps machine learning algorithms could nevertheless sort out much of the confusion. So they've got a good little debate going on here. However, we still don't know whether the universe is, at its core, quantized. So I wouldn't count out the possibility of accountability just yet. But there is no natural boundary that distinguishes this from that is rather trivial. It's like the puddle math and the pond universe. You develop the math that fits the universe. The longer you fiddle with it, the better it fits. Mathematics is more than just an abstraction. Otherwise, it would be no better than poetry. Of course, math maps to the universe. It's our human limitations that blinds us to believe that a perfect fit does not exist. But if you read the article anyway, it's quite interesting. I'll read out some of it. Mathematics has been called the language of the universe. Scientists and engineers often speak of the elegance of mathematics, don't they? When describing physical reality, citing examples such as E equals mc squared, and even something as simple as using abstract integers to count real-world objects. Yet, while these examples demonstrate how useful math can be for us, let's see, it doesn't mean that the physical world naturally follows the rules of mathematics as its mother tongue, and this mathematics has its own existence that is out there waiting to be discovered. The point of view of nature of the relationship between mathematics and physical world is called Platonism, but not everyone agrees with it. The argument is not new. In fact, Abbott estimates through his own experiences in an admitted non-scientific survey that while 80% of mathematicians lean towards a Platonist view, engineers by and large are non-Platonists. Physicists tend to be closeted non-Platonists, essays, meaning they often appear Platonists in public, but when pressed in private, he says he can often extract a non-Platonist confession. If mathematics, engineers, and physicists can all manage to perform their work despite differences in opinion on their philosophical subject, why does true nature of mathematics and its relation to the physical world really matter? So it's pretty good. That's basically saying that maths is a tool for fitting an application, but it doesn't necessarily explain how the real world works or how the universe works. I think someone said a comment further down here actually. Yeah, just kick them out, mate, if you're still there. You got a moderator. Anyone that's sort of spamming, just kick them out. You got control. I'm going to trust you. And if someone gets kicked accidentally, they can always contact me, and I probably can undo it. You see. So wouldn't worry too much about it. But we know pretty much who's in here regularly now. You're going to get secure team people coming in hassling, and you're going to get hoaxers coming in hassling. And just crazy people generally. Where was the sentence of that guy that quoted? Here he goes. We make math fit the application before anyone misconstrues this. No, we do not make the solution to fit the problem. We merely invent the tools that we think are helpful for a certain set of problems, then try out whether they are actually useful. So while a current set of mathematical methods may not be effective at solving an issue, another set of mathematics may well be. The author makes it out as if mathematics were something static. Far from it. The real central point of using math, however, is the idea. We perceive and believe the universe to be self-consistent. Math is also self-consistent, so we try to map the one onto the other. So we've got a lot of exploring to do, and people keep saying that it's got to be because the maths is always correct, may be wrong. is what my point is. And there's plenty of examples out there where equations only work for certain circumstances and don't work in others. So maybe that's why I didn't get into mathematics. So we've got another one here on rotation of Earth. So I think this was actually quite a good read, so I might just read that one out. Mike, who are you talking to? Someone having a heart attack? So the story was updated. Every day the Earth spins once around its axis, making sunrises and sunsets a daily feature of life on the planet. It has done so since it formed 4.6 billion years ago. So that's really guesswork too. They don't really know that. It will continue to do so until the world ends, likely when the sun swells into a red giant and swallows the planet. But they don't even know that really. So there's a lot of assumptions. The Earth formed out of a disk of gas and dust that swirled around the newborn sun. In the spinning disk, bits of the dust and rock stuck together to form the Earth. So they think. According to space.com, a sister site of Life Science, as it grew, space rocks continue colliding with the nascent planets, exerting forces that sent it spinning. So, in other words, the rock's hidden causes it to spin. Explained, blah blah, astrophysicists at the University of California. Because of all the debris in the early solar system was rotating around the sun in roughly the same direction, the collisions also spun the Earth and most everything else in the solar system. So, but that's what they reckon. But why was the solar system spinning in the first place? The sun and the solar system formed when a cloud of dust and gas collapsed due to its own weight. Most of the condensed become the sun, while the remaining material went into surrounding planets, forming disk. So we sort of covered a lot of that already. Because there isn't much in space to slow things down. Once something starts rotating, it usually keeps going. A rotating baby solar system, in this case, had lots of what's called angular momentum, which we've been talking about. A quantity that describes the object's tendency to keep spinning. As a result, all the planets likely spun in the same direction when the solar system formed. Today, however, some planets have put their own spin on their motions. Venus rotates in the opposite direction. I thought there was a planet that rotated the other way. Oh, what happened? Rotates in the opposite direction. As Earth and Uranus spin's axis is inclined to 90 degrees. Scientists aren't sure how these planets got that way, but they have some ideas. For Venus, maybe a collision caused its rotation to flip. So it's guesswork again. Or maybe it began rotating just like the other planets. Over time, the sun's gravitational tug on Venus, thick clouds combined with friction between the planet's core and mantle caused the spin to flip. A 2001 study published in Nature suggested that gravitational interactions with the sun and other factors might have caused Venus spin to slow down. In the case of Uranus, scientists have suggested that the collisions, one huge crash with a big rock, or maybe 1-2 punch with two different objects, kicked it off kilter, Scientific American reported. Despite all these kinds of disturbances, Everything in space rotates in one direction or another. Rotating is a fundamental behavior of objects in the universe. Objects rotate, stars rotate, galaxies rotate. It takes 230 million years for the solar system to complete one circuit around the Milky Way. So yeah, it goes on a wee bit there. Black holes can be even faster, one called blah blah blah. Things slow down too. When the sun formed, it spun once around its axis every 4 days, but today it takes about 25 days of the sun to spin once. Even the Earth's rotation decelerates. Gravity from the moon pulls the Earth in a way that ever so slightly slows it down. So that's something else new. So we've got earthquakes that affect it, and we also got the moon. A 2016 analysis in the journal Proceedings of the Royal Society of Ancient Eclipses showed that the Earth's rotation slowed by 1.78 milliseconds over a century. So there they go, they're saying it's slowed, and yet we read the other one that said it slows and speeds up. So it has slowed. So it doesn't mean the Earth eventually will slow down enough, but we might take millions of years. So who knows? I'll post that down the side because it's quite an interesting read. Yeah, well, that's why I'm reading it out. You know, when I get scientists arguing with me, and then I start pointing out stuff, and they go and blab that they are right and everything else is pseudoscience. It's not that easy. There's a lot more going on. So, how many people did we kick tonight? 3 so far, is it? Looks like it. What's going on tonight? Why are we getting all these idiots coming in? So we only got one watching now. Is that you, Jamal? Did I scare other people off with the science bits? But you have to understand all the stuff. You have to understand the rotation, and things rotate all the time. To understand basic physics out there, and also the limitations of mathematics and the physics that we're told, and there may be other explanations. So we sort of got to understand things before we start questioning it and dismissing stuff with pseudoscience claims. So we should really come to this article here where that's sort of, if you read this, it's just hilarious. It's on Reddit. I'll post the link down the side. They're all debating and saying they think they understand the theories that the science is telling them, the quantum theories, and they all seem to be fighting each other, and it seems that they're all confused themselves. So have a read of that sometime. It's just hilarious. So what he said here is, yeah, if they start acting disrespectfully and saying stupid things, just kick them. We don't need them here. See, that's the difference between me and other channels. They quite happily have people come in to get their views up. Me, I don't care. They can stay away. I only want quality people, not quantity. So, what's the subject here? Why don't atoms emit radio waves if their electrons are continuous motion? Since electrons are moving charges, shouldn't they be producing at least some tiny amount of radiation? In other words, losing energy. Of course they are. That's what I'm saying. There's energy going in and there's energy going out all the time, but they're saying it's all conserved, you see, with all their silly mathematics and equations. Congratulations. Wondering about this was one of the questions that led me to development of quantum mechanics while asking about atomic orbitals, which is talking about atomic orbitals, which is talking about the atom, of course. You're quite right. If electrons were orbiting the nucleus like little planets around the sun, they would emit radiation due to acceleration. So accelerating. The fact is they don't show that this model is wrong. Instead, we use the atomic orbital model, and electrons do not orbit the nucleus in the sense of a planet orbiting the sun. So already it started changing, but instead exist as a standing wave. The lowest possible energy an electron can take is therefore anomalous to the fundamental frequency of a wave on a string, higher energy. So they're talking about string theory now, I guess. Electrons act as both particles and waves. The reason they don't spiral into nucleus and hit it. And they start arguing down here. What's something that the model you described doesn't account for or could be wrong about? So they sort of don't understand. The modern quantum mechanics is missing some very subtle but measurable results from quantum field theory. It's tough to describe. I'm not too sure if there's a simpler example, but if you collide two beams of electrons, quantum mechanics will say 99% predictive, but it's a little wrong. You need what's called a higher order interactions to describe them. This is what you would use as Feynman diagram to calculate. We talked about Richard Feynman, and I did a book review about his books also in my channel. So it's best to go and have a look at that about Richard Feynman. But he is a clever man. If you'd like to take the time, I'd love to read it. Yeah, that's the problem. There's a lot of reading, a lot of stuff to understand. Depends on the exact thing you're trying to calculate, of course, but you wanted to characterize it by a single number. The fine structure constant, and of course that was in the UFO movie. My favorite constant, that's the 1/37, I think it was, and the constant we constantly know it to the highest accuracy. Yeah, that's what my 99% come from. The one, oh, here we go, 1/137. I almost got it right. And yeah, I had a feeling that might be it. Not really. Quantum mechanics does not take into account the relative speeds of electrons. That is, the fact that the electrons will be traveling at speeds close to the speed of light. So, are they sure it's the speed of light or not faster? You know, they're sort of making a lot of guesswork here. Right in the Schrodinger equation with relativistic effects leads to the dielectric equation. So they're talking about more maths here, and thus quantized fields, electrons, are then thought of as excitations of the field. Oh, note you can also get the Klein-Gordon equation, so another equation. So this goes on. They like their maths. I was using Lee's 2 in a vague sense. I wanted to clarify you cannot actually get from the Schrodinger equation to the direct equation, although you can go the other way. So crazy. I'd definitely like to hear what you know on the topic gravity. So this guy said what's missing is gravity. The quantum model describes 3 of the 4 fundamental forces, but does not describe gravity. And of course, Tesla does. He's saying gravity is there because it's absorbing radiant energy, or how it acts on a subatomic level. The biggest disconnect in physics is that between two very successful models, quantum mechanics for the very small and general relativity for the very large. This goes crazy, and the two theories do not comprehensively explain gravity, hence the uncertainty expressed in their post. You're quite right. If electrons were blah blah, I don't understand why this is true. So they're all sort of all confused and debating here, and it goes on and on and on. But and yet I got attacked. So stuff them. It wasn't this group. It was on a Facebook thing. that was Robert Farmer's fault, because I posted saying, "Oh, Tesla said this," and then someone started attacking me about pseudoscience. I don't know why they hate Tesla so much, though. So I guess are you going off now? Are you working? Because it's Friday, so you should be all right, shouldn't you, Jamal? Is it best time them out or hide? Normally, when I time them out, they still keep coming back, so I end up hiding them from the channel. That's what I do. What you do is you give them a warning. No swearing on the side chats. F word, SC word, especially. You can say, S word, like SHIT, is okay because it's being typed. But we're trying to keep the website PG mostly if we can, so people can come here and sort of debate science and UFOs and keep it friendly. I don't know why people have to ruin it. Are people just nut jobs out there in America or something? I'm not too sure. I haven't tried report function. There's a report function, isn't there? Report. So I'm not sure what that does. I think that's if you're being racist or threatening. You can report them, and YouTube will delete their account completely. I think hideout is like a mute, and they could be abusing you and all sorts, and no one will ever see it apart from themselves. So they're wasting their time. And they don't get any error message either. They can post comments and whatever, and this doesn't show up. It's one of the most annoying functions that you can be put into. So that brings me to the last subject. We've gone 2.5 hours. I'm not sure if I explained everything correctly. I have been a wee bit tired today with all the company. But I was going to read out this one about this thing that was UFO that left glitter on the tree. So this story was quite good, actually. Pennsylvanians were reporting a spike in UFO sightings in 2008. Many emanating from the skies over Bucks County outside Philadelphia. It drew a little local media attention, the usual stuff, with talking heads, usually the usual lame-o, out of this world. And these things usually go on. Nobody ever got to the bottom of it, so the flap stayed confined to the local quarters. Suddenly, from out of the blue, on April 24th, Cooper recirculated the mystery by inviting an eyewitness named Denise to tell national audiences about how she was awakened by her growling dog in the middle of the night to discover glowing lights above her house. The UFOs proceeded to sprinkle metallic-looking glitter on her tree. Maybe it was Santa Claus, making her think it was snowing in July. Cooper then introduced Pennsylvania State Mutual UFO Network Director John Ventry. That's the guy that made racist comments and caused a bit of a friction in the MUFON network, because a lot of people wanted him gone, because if he's racist, how can he work with anyone, let alone interview people and not judge them by their skin color? So they wanted him go, but they didn't get rid of him. So you've probably heard about this guy. Talk about it, what happened on the tree. MUFON sent leaves from the affected tree, which we saw in that video last stream, to different labs, both of which reported high levels of magnesium and boron, 2 to 3 times higher than the controlled samples, which they probably took off another tree further away, detected on neighboring trees. Yep, there we go. And furthermore, the leaves had produced Anthocyanin, I'm not sure what that is, chemical, which how do you say his name? Ventry, I suppose it is. So accurately described as a plant's natural defense from heat and radiation. Well, that's interesting. But were those levels of anthocyanin excessive or unnatural? And what gives with the elevated magnesium and boron? This is part where you bring in one of those lab analysis, right? Or a botanist, maybe. Nope, not a Anderson Cooper. This is part where you immediately shift gears and bring in a couple of UFO abductees. Then you bring on the designated debunker. So this was on Anderson Cooper. I think I remember seeing the thing on TV or a clip on the web. The Anderson Cooper was a complete drip, and he still is. I just don't like the guy at all. They bring you on the designated debunker, in this case, Joe Nickell, to dismiss it all in a few short sentences. Nickell informed Denise she only seen Jupiter, so Jupiter dumped stuff on my tree. Denise wondered, "Is that what you're saying?" "No," Nickell countered. "I expect the stuff on the tree was probably you saw some sand or something." Saw some sand? What's that mean? You saw some sand. Oh, right. So, some sand dropped from the sky into the tree, or something in the light. Bottom line, no additional chatter on the boron or the magnesium or the anthocyanin, because AC, Anderson Cooper, needed to get a psychic medium to talk about star families. Cooper, whose CNN promo is all about keeping them honest and accountability. Oh, that's just laughable if you watch CNN now. Allowed Nickell to get away with unchallenged inaccuracies. You just have to watch all the stuff about anti-Trump that they have on their channel now. It's just absolutely out of control and ridiculous. Nickell attributed the 2006 Chicago O'Hare Airport incident to a hole punch cloud, even though National Weather Service meteorologists confirmed the temperatures at the incursion's estimated altitude of 1,900 feet was 50 degrees Fahrenheit, I guess. Hole punch clouds need freezing temperatures to occur. Nichols said 1997 Phoenix Lights UFO was misidentified military flares. This massive object was sighted traveling along a 200-mile southbound corridor by hundreds of witnesses from 8:15 to 9:30 p.m. The flares was another event that happened the same night, and we believe that the military dropped the flares as a cover story. That's what most of us believe now. The Air National Guard admitted to dropping flares at 10 p.m. along the Barry Goldwater Range. So that's half an hour after the eyewitnesses saw the big UFO that blocked out the stars as it flew overhead. So, Luke, Air Force Base, even former Arizona guy Iffy Simonton said the flare explanation was bogus. So at the time they didn't believe the flare thing, but now they do, of course. They believe that it was two events. So it looks like Cooper's daytime show is going the fair and balanced we reports you decide route. So I'm not sure when this was written, but it's quite a funny article. 2012. So yeah, I kind of like that. That was quite good. So just me and you now, Jamal. Looks like they don't like what we do here. So Ren the Fox. What's all these people coming in tonight? Is it crazy moon? Is it full moon outside on Friday in America or something? Yeah, just get rid of them. What kind of threats was he saying? Probably shouldn't ask. Don't worry about it. We'll just carry on with our show here anyway. I'll wrap up in half an hour, or maybe after this last article anyway, because I'm getting a sore throat. I've been talking all day to family, you see. So, 10 UFOs that allegedly left physical evidence. So let's just have a skim through this one. Reports of trace cases where UFOs leave their fingerprints behind are steadily growing. They can easily dismiss as lies from attention-seeking weirdos, but when they come from professionals such as pilots, policemen, soldiers, and scientists, it makes you wonder. These are not the career fields that encourage employees to swing on the extraterrestrial vine. They stand to lose a lot by reporting or investigating a UFO. Of course, they can also stand to gain a fair amount due to the publicity. This doesn't mean that civilian sightings are less important. Trace cases, like any other good mystery, cannot be proven to everyone's satisfaction, but they remain in eternally fascinating to paranormal sleuths, whether armchair or professional. So number 10, let's see how many we know. Cruiser Bruiser. I assume that's a picture artist rendering here, not a photograph. A moody UFO had no respect for the law when it was approached by a deputy sheriff in 1979 while on patrol outside the small community of Stephen, Minnesota. Val Johnson encounters something that would give him and his cruiser the UFO version of weaseling out of a ticket. Around 2 a.m., the deputy noticed a bright object hovering above the road and decided to investigate a little closer. The UFO suddenly rocketed straight at the patrol car, killing the engine. The last thing Johnson remembered was the light all around him and the sound of glass shattering. When he woke up, the strange object was gone, and he was blind and bruised, but able to radio for help. Fellow policemen soon arrived and found Johnson's 1977 Ford worse off than he was. The windshield was splintered and smashed. There were 2 dents in the hood, and both a headlight and roof beacon were wrecked, which means the flashing light, of course. The car's 2 radio antennae were bent, respectively at 45 degrees and 90 degrees. Johnson also stated that the car's clock and his wristwatch both stopped for 14 minutes, that he had blacked out for 39 minutes. Time in the Val Johnson story is only suspicious factor in an otherwise compelling UFO trace case. He never clarified how he knew that he had been unconscious for nearly 39 minutes, nor did he explain what had made him aware that two cloaks had lost time and how he measured the time lost as 14 minutes. Medical evidence was as little more solid. The doctor who tended to Johnson described his sight injury is similar to a welder burn caused by extreme exposure to UV light. Thankfully, he eventually recovered his vision, and the patrol car, original damage intact, now stands in the museum in the Minnesota town of Warren. So what was it called? Val Johnson. So I wonder if we can find his car online, picture of it, because it should have been in this article, really. Probably have to put UFO on the end or something. Car UFO. And we've got a picture. Oh, here we go. We've got lots of pictures. So, suppose we go one by one and have a look. So, there's the smashed screen. Well, why would a UFO do that? It's almost like something hit the front of the car as he was driving towards it. And what else we got? Oh, here's the bent antenna. 45 degrees, looks like it. Smashed headlights. And the other side, I guess. Bent, oh, is it the same side? No, same side, 45 degrees. And then we've got a wide shot here. Doesn't look like a UFO case to me. It looks more like a hit and run. Like he got hit by a deer crossing the road impact sort of thing, isn't it? Could he have made up the story? It's possible. What else do they say here about that case? Most infamous UFO encounter. So I wonder if there's any debunks for it then. Yeah, UFO. Let's see. There's a Wikipedia on it, so it might have it in that. Let's have a look. Incident, we just read out. Ufologists considered the incident one of the most significant and best published UFO events in the 1970s. Johnson refused to take a polygraph. Well, that's not a good thing, is it? Because he felt that doing so would only satisfy people's morbid curiosity. In this 1983 book, UFOs, the public deceived UFO skeptic Phil Klass, which Robert says he's a complete idiot, argued that the entire event was a hoax and that Johnson had deliberately damaged his own car. Well, my theory is probably better, that something ran across the road and he hit it. And he didn't want to pay because he wasn't paying attention, maybe. Maybe he was doing something he shouldn't have been. But yeah, move on to the next story anyway. So that one's not really been debunked. So what's number 9? The killer ice cream cone. That sounds interesting. So what's it saying here? On January 1947, Captain Thomas Mantle was leading a squadron of 4 F-51 Massvans to an airfield in North Kentucky, unaware that a giant cone-shaped object in the air was already freaking out civilians, military, and highway patrols. The cone craft, I don't know if that's sort of like that bulb-shaped one that Bob Lassar was talking about last live stream. The cone-shaped craft gave witnesses the impression of being reflective, and at least 90 meters, 300 feet in diameter. Since they were incidentally in the right airspace, a tower operator requested that Marshall investigate. The Mexicans climbed in altitude to reach their target, but at 6,800 meters, low fuel or oxygen forced the other pilots to return to base. Alone, Mantle continued ascending and radioed his last message saying that he saw the object directly ahead and that he was going to give a chase another 10 minutes, but shortly after, a horrified local watched Mantle's plane circle 3 times before it dived out of the sky and exploded. About halfway to the ground, the extreme fringe believed that the Mantle had been shot down by the extraterrestrial force. Director of Project Grudge, Edward J. Ruppelt, blamed the incident on the Skyhook balloon. The US Navy was secretly developing the Skyhook, massive ice cream cone-shaped balloon made of reflective aluminium. So there you go, that one could be debunked. None of the witnesses ever heard about or seen Skyhook before. According to Ruppelt's sources, several of them were launched about 240 kilometers away on the same day. So yeah, that one's sort of... So where was the physical evidence on that one, apart from the guy saying he saw it before he crashed and got killed? That one's boring. Number 8. We've heard that one so many times now. Renison UFO incident in UK. And Kecksburg, we've heard a few times now. That's the one shaped like an acorn. So we don't really want to go over that one. The water thief, that sounds interesting. Number 6. During the same year as Rendlesham Forest incident, an Australian farm worker named George Blackwell had a run-in with a thirsty UFO. He was roused from his sleep about 1 a.m. by frantic farm animals bellowing and galloping and an unearthly whistling sound. Checking to see what was going on, the 54-year-old was astonished to see cattle trying to escape a double domed object hovering about 3 meters above the ground. The craft appeared to be chicken, a shed, a hedge, and a silo, and finally a water tank whistling loudly all the way. The open water tank seemed to hold the object's attention for a while before it finally settled on the ground. Blackwell approached the object on his motorbike, but was forced to stop 15 meters, 50 feet away due to the air splintering whistling. He estimated its height to be about 4.5 meters, 15 feet, and the diameter to be 8 meters or 26 feet. The surface was dotted with orange and blue lights that might have been round windows, but the weirdest feature was the moving black tube, which inflated to a size bigger than the UFO itself. When the craft took off, apparently with 38,000 liters of water later discovered missing from the tank, the creepy tube shrank back down into the middle of the object's base. Doesn't that sound like a bit like Mojo's case I worked on? The UFO hovering over the water, making what sounded like pumping sounds. So it sounds like water is like a precious thing in the universe, and everything that's sort of living may need water. For a long time, the cattle avoided the black ring marking that landing site, and for more than a week, the headache plagued Blackwell, suffered from diarrhea, and could not hold much food down for days after sighting his wristwatch, which only ticked when he wasn't wearing it. So maybe he'd become magnetized. You know how we were talking about magnetism of the house, and non-magnetic materials. The Vivienda crater. That's something else. How are we going down the side here? Hey, how's it going there? One life. UFO can go into the water and lava. Well, I'm not too sure about lava, but we certainly know they've been sighted underwater. Are you still there, Jamel? I'm not too sure what's happened to Robert, although I haven't checked the main screen, but I did post them out the links to the thing, and if they ever want to join, they can just come on the side chat and say we're here. In case I miss them on the main screen, I'll just check anyway. No one's replied to me on Hangouts, so, but it doesn't matter. We're going to wrap up soon anyway. We're just reading the last of these stories. So my next one will probably be on Sunday, but I thought about doing one early, like in the afternoon, but not sure how that works with you guys. Whether you'd want to do a 1 p.m. one, which would be like 12 midnight in UK, whether Robert would want to join that time, or whether I just keep it to my regular time, about 10 o'clock, which seems to be a constant thing I'm doing, so thought I might change it up and see if more people can come on. But as you see, tonight was just ridiculous with the amount of trolls we've had. So in 1965, a French farmer heard of which he took to be a helicopter landing on his property, decided to investigate. Maurice Massey, 41, raised lavender just outside the town of Renensol in the south of France. Going out to his field, he encountered a dull, oval-shaped, about 3.5 meters, 11 foot wide, and 2.5 meters high, resting on its belly with 6 legs. They could be any size, really, couldn't they? They could be a size of insects, fly around in spaceships. It reminded him of a spider. There was also a pair of child-sized entities scrutinizing the lavender tree, is it? When Massey tried to get closer, one paralyzed him by pointing a rod at him. Resembled the classic greys, except they were white, necklace, and had elfish ears. They boarded the craft, and for 15 minutes after they departed, Massey was unable to move, but the landing site was soppy wet crater. Later, the wetness was gone, and the ground turned hard as concrete, while the rest of the field earth remains crumbly. For months after, Massey suffered from a strange sleeping disorder when he slept 15 hours at a stretch, which wasn't normal for him. French government agencies and police gathered interest in data from the site. The landing area showed high elevated levels of calcium when compared to the rest of the field. Dense and 3-meter wide spherical space showed that something had been there. So there were impressions. The lavender plants around the crater were sick and dying, and for 10 years nothing would grow in that spot. So the U-Batuba case. That sounds like something out of Star Wars, is it? Is that a place in South America? Well, the only danger one UFO in Brazil presented was itself. It exploded like a firecracker. It's possibly one of the most noteworthy trace cases. On September 14th, 1957, homeless Abraham sued received a letter from a fan who had a fantastic story and the proof to back it up. The envelope contained 3 white metal pieces allegedly from a disc that had disintegrated above a beach in Ubatuba, Sao Paulo. The fan who claimed to have witnessed the event was never identified. The testing done on one of the pieces destroyed it, but gave interesting findings. It was revealed to be magnesium, so we've had that one before, and boron was another one, with average density. And while the study stated that the magnesium was purer than that which human technology could produce, the fragments become an overnight sensation in UFO circles. University of Colorado tested one of the 2 remaining pieces and found that it wasn't as pure, but since the Brazil sample no longer existed, its purity couldn't be verified. However, the Colorado study did conclude that the piece was packed with an abnormal amount of strontium, something not found in the normal magnesium. The metal also had been strengthened during its manufacture with a process called directional crystallization, a technique unknown in 1957 when the fragments were mailed to the colonists. That's an interesting one. This is the first time I've heard that one. What do you think of that case, guys? Who's out there still? We've got 3 watching now. It seems to go up and down a lot. It took too long. What I was going to say, that's a sign of old age. As you get older, your memory starts to go. So that one and the water one I kind of like so far. So what's number 3? Fire on the highway. So this one sounds like another interesting one. And the Scoutmaster attack. You remember we were talking at the beginning of the live tonight about that new History Channel drama coming out? I wonder if the Scoutmaster attack is the one they're going to do, because it sounds very similar. And number 1, they reckon, is the Maury mystery, but that one we kind of suspect might be a fake. So the Scoutmaster seems to be the most popular one now to put on TV. So we'll have a read of that one in a minute. So Fire on the Highway, let's have a look at that one. Did Renee go? Is Renee back with us at all? No. On September 1965, 2 South African police constables were on night patrol. They were driving on the Pretoria Broekhorsdorp Highway. The evening shift so far uneventful, but then midnight changed everything. It's unclear who saw the contraption sighting on the highway, but it was a sight that never would be forgot. It certainly wasn't terribly frightening. The craft was a silver copper-colored disc. So how many copper-colored discs have we ever heard about? Most of them are silver. But what struck Constables John Lockton and Kirsty Clark was what happened when the UFO sped off seconds after they sighted it. The fleeing craft shot away in a rush of speed and heat, spewing an overload of fire that bounced 1 meter 3 foot off the asphalt. The highway actually caught fire, because I know you can actually cause asphalt, because it's oil based, isn't it? It's made from coal, isn't it? Which can burn. An area of 1.8 meters 6 foot in diameter burned so intensely that gravel separated from the tar. During the official investigation that followed, it was found that the section of road had collapsed, mostly likely due to the weight of the large UFO. Samples taken from the carnage were sent away for analysis, but the results were never made public. Don't you just hate that? All these great cases out there, and we don't hear about what's actually happened. So these could be all the smoking gun UFO cases that we want as proof. So everything should be public. The governments are hiding stuff from us. I find it really frustrating. So the Scoutmaster attack. So let's have a read of this one. How big is it? So I'll probably make this the last one because this is becoming a 3-hour stream now, and my throat is starting to go a bit. I've run out of drink. So the case occurred on August 19th, 1952. Don't all the good ones happen? The good cases happened back in the 1950s and 60s. They stumped the investigations of Project Blue Book. So it's going to be on that series then, because that was series that we talked about was called Project Blue Book. That night, Deputy Sheriff Mott N. Parton responded to a call that 3 terrified children had shown up at the caller's farmhouse. They were scouts claiming that their scoutmaster, Sonny Dasvingers, had collapsed while investigating strange lights on a rural road in Palm Beach. Going back to the scene, the cops didn't have to search long. Dasvingers emerged from the trees in a traumatized state, which the 19-year-old police officer Vietnam I can't say it now. Veteran Parton felt was genuine. The Scoutmaster claimed that he has been attacked by a UFO and 3 tiny burn holes in his hat. With singe marks on his arms. This case eventually landed on the desk of Blue Book investigator Edward J. Ruppelt. Investigations at the scene didn't immediately find anything conclusive, and Ruppelt learned from the scouts that they never saw the original lights that had caught Dasvingers' attention. However, the boys did witness sequential lights, including a red light that seemingly caused their scoutmaster to faint. So there you go. There are red lights on UFOs. You know how people were talking about Mojo's video that I analysed with the strobe and red lights? That why would a UFO have red lights on it? Well, here's a case that's going to go on History Channel that they think is one that's left physical evidence and is true. So Devinder's story held dispute Rupert's attempts to trip him up, but Rupert smelled a publicity stunt for financial gain when Dasvingers hired a press agent and made ridiculous claims to reporters. Then Dasvingers' history of lying, going AWOL, and car theft, which got him removed from the US Marines, caught up with him. Ruppelt was now wary of him, and his press agent abandoned him. Certain now that the sighting was a hoax, Ruppelt was at a loss to explain how the whole thing was staged, nor could he or the FBI lab discover what had burned the Scoutmaster's cap, or how some of the grass taken from the site had charred roots. So underground? So it must have got hot on the ground for them to have charred roots. Well, their leaves were fine. So that's really strange, isn't it? Nothing prevents a compulsive liar from having a supernatural experience. Either Devingers told the truth, somewhat embellished it, or he managed to pull off a hoax that left one of the best investigations in the business without answers. So yeah, again, that's like the Mojo one. He could have hoaxed it. It could have been legit, and this one's basically saying the same. Hey, Renee, you're back. So I was actually going to start wrapping up now, guys. What is the time? 1:15. I think Jamel is going to get in trouble. And you got work? Oh, no, you have the weekend off, don't you? 10 p.m. Sunday, I will be here. If any trolls dare to enter the live streams, you will feel the full wrath of the wrench. Yeah, that's good. You've done good, all right, tonight, mate. I've been busy reading stuff and not watching what's going on, and that's why you need someone to help you out. Yeah, the trolls have been crazy tonight. Must be a full moon in America, or wherever they're coming from. So yeah, well, we didn't get so many good people watching tonight. I think the science bits I did sort of bored people, but you'll see when I bring up the stuff that I'll probably be referencing in the future, talking about how things spin and whatnot. And you know that stuff in space now spins forever unless you put a force onto it now. So yeah. I think that's pretty me done now. 3 hours. And I've got all my tabs closed, I think. I don't think that's the last bit. So give it a couple of hours for Google to process the front bit if you missed the front bit, and then you can skim through it and have a comment. You can say comments on my videos if you want to, and I'll answer. So yeah, I don't have all the answers like you. I sort of read stuff here and try and wrap my head around it, and I'm sort of not stuck in my ways like these mathematicians and physicists claim that they know everything and that I'm wrong and all that sort of stuff. So, and Tesla is pseudoscience and he was wrong, but maybe Einstein's wrong. Or maybe Tesla and Einstein were both wrong, but they were also both right. So there's bits and pieces of both, and when you join it all together, eventually we'll have the complete answer. So yeah, I'll let Jamel get a bed. Keep doing what you're doing. Your channel is excellent. You have loyal support. Good night, mate. Yeah, I'm just going to kick off the end credit music and let Google process it. Thanks for joining us here, and I'll see you guys Sunday if you're about, and I'll probably be doing more looking at MUFON cases and anything else that sort of comes out on the web that I think I need to talk about, so you're aware of it. I guess secure team might have put out something while we've been doing this stream, so it might be something I have to have a look at. So yeah, thanks for joining us, and I'll just kick off the music here. Where is it? Good night, everybody, and do like and share, and it all helps.